Hey everybody, happy afternoon, Friday afternoon. Becoming a community builder all across rural Alberta. We take the set down. We put the junk in the back. Like, I don't know why we do that, but we put the junk in the back. Take the set down, put the junk in the back, because it's a coaching session. It's an Ask Ian Anything. AIA. Ask Ian Anything session. Now, as always, we're joined by our lovely co-host. You know what's funny? The guys say at 30 seconds, your mic is hot. And I just want to know my wife is hot. So Gina is here. There she is, looking good. How are you?
Thank you.
Yeah,
you don't want a hot mic?
I don't want a hot mic. I want a hot wife. Okay. And I have one. Gina Hill danced all over the world. First time I ever saw her, she's just bouncing across in a hotel casino, because we were both executives, and I saw her and I was like, man. And then the first time I talked to her, she was like, I have no idea who you are. So anyways, the life of a man, right? Okay, what are we doing? We're talking about systems. Systems. The problem is there's not enough time, energy, and effort to get done everything you want to get done. The solution? Systems. A system is a deeply integrated set of parts that were organized and integrated to do what? Accomplish a specific purpose. Now, the funny thing about systems is they can organically grow up and take hold, or they can be developed for a specific purpose. Either way, the question is, are the systems you're using the ones the times require? Interestingly enough, I tried to make the case in the teaching session when we were in Stony Plain, Parkland County. What? We had a good time, about 40 of us there. We were broadcasting live on remote. And it sounds like, Gina, we're going to be broadcasting live on remote from High River, tentatively, High River, I think for our next coaching session, which might be pretty cool. So we got to work out those details, but hopefully we're going to be broadcasting live from High River. Hey, anyways, the idea here, the idea was, as we talked in the coaching session, or in the teaching session, I tried to make the case that the whole universe is a big system. And that there's physical systems, like our body, mechanical and human interface systems, like a bicycle. There's mechanical systems, like the thermostat over there on the wall. But then there's also intangible systems, social systems, like cliques in your workplace. Or intangible systems, like the hierarchy that we create within neighborhoods or in communities. Oh, I just don't go over there. Or we don't drive through that part of the community. Or that's not a place that we go. Whatever. Tangible and intangible systems. They either organically grow up, I don't know, that's just what we do around here, or they were intentionally designed for a purpose. Systems. Wheatley said that she believed, and she's a pretty smart gal, she believed that literally the human race's survival rested on our ability to become better systems thinkers. That's a pretty powerful statement. Okay, so what are we doing today? Taking your questions about systems. Now, systems could be personal systems, like we've talked about. This week we're talking about maximizing the utilization of your time. Hopefully you're looking at that. How do you take the 168 hours you've been given every week and maximize that? That's different than time management. So those of you that looked at that and said, oh, he's just talking time management, I've done that course. It's nuanced, it's different, maximizing use of your time. How do we bring the 168 hours that we get in our week into alignment with our long-term aspirations and goals? How do we do that? And how do we bring that to the ground to daily and weekly application? So time, that's a personal system. Or communication, that's a personal system. It was Aristotle that first talked about that. He created a system for communication. And if you've watched that video, I've added to that because old Aristotle, Jeff, he just wasn't, I was a little bit more than, There's organizational systems, delegation, motivation. Or how about this? Performance management. You see on the web portal over to your right, you see these additional videos that you can access at your leisure that have the asterisks next to them. That 1 hour, yes, it's 1 hour, how to develop exceptional performance is a comprehensive system for performance management, from the onboarding to the delegating to the managing of when someone doesn't perform to your expectation or to standard. We give you a full system. Now, you might not watch that if you don't manage people. But if you aspire to manage people or currently manage people in the for-profit sector, in the social profit sector, in the governmental sector, as a volunteer or paid staff, I strongly encourage you, watch that. Watch it. Take some time, 15 minutes a day, knock it out. Or you could have systems, organizational systems like volunteer recruitment or fund development. Or how about community systems? What about community engagement? How do we mobilize citizenry to get more involved in their community? That's a system. Or how about the development of our youth? We don't think of that in terms of systems, but it's absolutely a system. How do we build the citizen of tomorrow? Or how about workforce development? Or the bringing in of new Canadians and helping them to be quicker and faster a part of our community and contributing members of our community. What about our social services? I had a great opportunity recently to be, last time we got together, I had just been with all the FCSS directors from across the province. We were all in Grand Prairie together, and we talked about systems. Well, Ian, when you're talking about community, you're talking about policy, right? No, it's more than just policy. Policy is a part of the system. Why this whole discussion and emphasis on big picture systems thinking? Because systems are force multipliers. For me personally, they help me get more done with less. In my organization, they help me get more done with less. In my community, they help me get more done with less. Give me a place to stand and I will move the world, Archimedes said. He was talking about the power of the human potential to use systems, not just the power of the human potential. He was talking about his fulcrum and lever. So you can ask your questions now. Your questions can come in via Facebook. Gina's monitoring, Stephanie, Yvonne, Jeff, everybody's monitoring Facebook. You can ask your questions on Facebook. Either post it or send us a message through Facebook. You can text in your question. Yvonne has her phone. She's ready to go. She'll take your text questions. Or you can email in your question. questions@becomingacommunitybuilder.ca. questions@becomingacommunitybuilder.ca. Or as always, you can put your questions in the chat box. I cannot overemphasize the importance of personal systems, organizational systems, and community systems. They are force multipliers. Are the systems you're using what the times require? Now here's the sad thing. The sad thing is this. When systems aren't good or when they're misaligned, guess what? They're also force multipliers. Oh, I don't understand. Yeah, when there's a really bad system, it has exponential impact. Just like when there's a really good system, it has exponential impact. Deming said, or Drucker said, that about 85% of the poor performance or bad companies or bad organizations, systems. And I think the same is true for community. All right. Let's get to questions, because I know they're coming in. Are they coming in, Gina? I don't have to look at you. I can look at you on the split screen. Yeah, there you are. Hi. Woo! Do you only have one earring on?
No, I'm good. It's just covered.
It's covered. Okay. Just want to make sure. Checking your accessories.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Questions. Hit me.
Hold on one second. We are having some buffering issues, I guess, in some areas.
Okay.
So I wanted to remind everybody, if you just scroll over your video box and change the setting from high to 240p, that should help with some of the buffering issues.
Okay. So all you do on your video box right there, as this is buffering while I tell you.
Right.
So if you look in the lower corner, click 240p, that should take care of your buffering issue. And hopefully Stephanie or Yvonne put that in the chat box. Hopefully Stephanie or Yvonne can put that in the chat box.
Yeah.
Yeah, have them do that.
All right.
Text Yvonne and have her or Stephanie or somebody do that. So come back to me, Jeff. I want to be clear, and this will give Gina a chance to send that note. Or put it in the chat box herself. So, systems. What are your systems questions? Are you able to recognize systems? Are you able to observe systems? But be clear, just understanding a system, observing a system, or pointing out that a system is broken doesn't improve the system necessarily. Kennedy said, not enough to see a problem, not enough to understand a problem. Action and action alone would solve the world's ills. So my goal in this whole systems discussion is get you to be a better systems thinker. How are we doing that? By providing you examples of many, many different systems, personal, organizational, community, to just get you being a better systems thinker. And then because you have knowledge of your organization or knowledge of your community or knowledge of your family, you're going to improve the systems in the various roles that you play in your life. And that will have exponential improvement on yourself, your community, your organization. Okay? All right, Gina, you ready to hit me with that question?
I am.
Okay, go
This
for it.
question came in yesterday, actually.
Yesterday. I like when people send in their questions early.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes. This is from somebody who's having trouble deciding the what for their commitment.
Their commitment. Got it.
She's hung up on what you said in reference to if your community doesn't benefit within 6 months by what you change with your commitment, then our time together has been wasted.
Okay. Yeah, I remember me saying that. I do remember me saying that. So, to the questioner, I may have been speaking a little bit of hyperbole. And those, I think you linked two comments together, but you're right, I did say that. So let me clarify. Commitment. So now is the time in the program where we all should be making a commitment. And some have been coming in. Frankly, though, not as many as should be. Not as many as should be. You see it right there on the bottom of your screen. But it could be that some of you are like this nice person, hung up. So if I've created that hang up, let me clarify. The commitment that you make is something that to you is of value, important, meaningful, that would make a difference in someone's life around you, in the life of your organization, in the life of your community. We have had commitments that could be completed literally right away. Others, the commitment is going to be more long-term. So when I made the comment, if we don't see improvement in 6 months, this program has been a waste. I agree with, I stand by that statement to say this, that we want to see the ball moving forward. Some of the commitments could be completed in 6 months. We saw in the pre-roll today, John Hancock's commitment from Pincher. He got that done literally in, I don't know, Gina, what, 90 days? I mean,
yeah, it was just a couple months.
It was very, very quick. Other commitments, like we've gotten in the past of, you know, opening a facility or developing a program, those are going to be a year, 2 years.
But let me ask her a specific question. She says, how do I qualify or quantify the 6-month benefit to the community? What level of benefit is enough?
Wow, good question. And I think personally, this is going to sound really namby-pamby and philosophical, but I mean this. The whole point of this program is developing rural Alberta 1 leader at a time. That's it. If I was to cut open an apple, core out the apple, and if I was to take each one of the seeds and lay them out linearly, core out the apple and take out all the seeds, I could tell you the number of seeds in an apple, but I could never tell you the number of apples in a seed. I could never tell you the number of apples in a seed. Now listen, that sounds namby-pamby, but please. So your commitment may have exponential impact. We had a lady in Lacombe. She started an entrepreneurial program in an elementary school where she walked into a classroom and gave every kid $10 and then challenged them to grow that money with a real-world experiential learning opportunity. They grew that money and then donated it to their favorite charity. Some kids grew it to $20, some kids grew it to $50, some even to $100. Now, what's the impact of that? Well, let's say the impact of that was that the charity grew got a little bit more money. But it's also their personal learning. How to grow $5 to $50 by making something and selling it, or by buying something and selling it, or whatever. And what's the long-term impact of that? So in the near term, they had an experiential learning opportunity that cost her a couple $100. She plans to do it every year now. But in the long term, and some money was donated, but in the long term, that could have exponential impact. Or how about the lady in Pincher, or in the Waterton area, Waterton outside of Pincher? She started a bursary, a couple $1,000 bursary. She's going to give it out. What's the impact of that? Well, in the near term, a kid gets some money to help with school. What's the long-term impact of that? So I think it is difficult to quantify in some instances, but in those two specific instances, there was near-term impact, long-term impact. We've also had some very personal, I commit to listening to my kids. Well, 6 months from now, we may not be able to, on a matrix, quantify the impact of that dad committing to me that he's going to listen more to his kids. And then he gave me some very specific ways he was going to do it and spend more time with his kids. But you and I know that if he walks through that commitment, there's going to be a deeper relationship with his kids. And maybe one commitment is maybe one evaluator of that is they'll have less problems in school. Grades will go up. There'll be greater peace in the house, not as many fights. So these commitments have to be very personal. But I like the way, where you're going with that, because you're saying at the beginning, how am I going to measure this? But I encourage everyone, don't get caught up in, wow, does it need to be big? It doesn't need to be small. Just commit to something. And don't get too caught up, although I think it's important to think through, how am I going to measure this? How am I going to measure this? We get caught up in all of that and then nothing changes. Just pick something that's near and dear to your heart that makes you cry at night and get up and go and do. I won't share the particulars of it, but we've had an incident in our home that has made me say we've got to do something with young girls. We've got to help young girls. There's too many young girls that I'm meeting, they're afraid to go to school, huh, honey?
Yeah.
You can bring her up. You know, and we've experienced that. There are too many tweens, 9 to 12-year-olds, that are afraid to go to school because they're going to be made fun of or picked on. That's wrong, man. That's wrong. And we have experienced it personally. And I think we're both committed to doing something about that.
Yeah, I mean, it causes so much stress, this other stuff that they have to deal with, that they can't even learn. They can't go to school to learn. It's about everything else. And
so for us, we're contemplating, and Gina always makes me say this, theoretically, because if she doesn't qualify everything with theoretical, I'll do a new project. So we're working theoretically on what can we do about that. We've had an experience on it. We've now found that other families and young girls are experiencing it. What can we do about that? So for us, a commitment might birth out of a personal experience that we want to make sure our kids don't go through it and no other kids go through what one of our daughters went through. But for you, it might be very personal in your home, or it might be in your organization. There's a system that's broken in your organization, and you know what? I'm tired of stepping over that problem. I'm going to fix it. I'm tired of walking past this. I'm going to fix it. I can't tell you what your commitment should be. I can't. I won't. I can give you examples of what others have committed to. But I will say this, don't get so hung up on big, small, whatever. Just, does it touch your heart? Do you know it needs to be fixed? Can you commit to fixing it? Personal, organizational, community. Gina, am I making the point you think, or am I missing something here?
I think so. I mean, and it's going to be so different. We've seen such a broad array of commitments, and only if it touches your heart, like you said, is it going to actually happen.
That's right, because we won't follow through on it, right?
Right.
And I will say this, because this is, I'll pull back the veil a little bit. Ian, how can you say just make any commitment? Because I want you to get used to fulfilling a commitment and changing. In a 9-week period, 10-week period, 20-week period, if you'll make a commitment and actually start to move on that commitment, have an action plan, have accountability partners, and move it forward, then you will get better at changing. So the method to the madness isn't just to get a bunch of commitments and hopefully make community, organizational, and personal impact. It's also the residue, the positive residue from that. I actually did something. I actually had a success. I actually had a victory. Community commitment in Strathmore. There is a lady that literally now 6 months, coming up on 6 months later, whatever it is, she is literally, her and a group are now transforming the whole healthcare discussion in Strathmore. They now got the mayor involved. They got the council involved. They got businesses involved. They got everybody involved. And it started with one lady making a commitment. If you don't believe that's true, just read the Facebook comments. She tells the whole story right there. That becoming a community builder, us forcing her to make a commitment, was the impetus that she needed to go get it. She'd been thinking about it, but she had to go get it. So please, please, please make your commitment. Good question. Hey, we're gonna go to Bonnieville in just a second. So all of you in Bonnieville, get ready. We're gonna Skype into Bonnieville because I know they have a question. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, and this is a follow-up to the last
All
one.
right, go.
It's a
and then
text
we'll go to
we just
Bonnieville.
got.
So guys, get ready. We're gonna go to Bonnieville after this one. Bonnieville, you get ready. We're coming to you in a minute.
It says, Ian, would it make...
Well, don't call Bonnieville now. Go. Somebody's calling Bonnieville because I can hear
Or
it.
they're calling us.
Or they're calling us. Okay, go ahead, Gina. I'm listening. Let me shut my computer.
Okay. Ian, would it make more sense to chart your growth, perhaps through a journal, and assess your own progress towards your commitment after 6 months?
Sure.
That's what I think you mean by a success. If it may not affect the community on a large scale, but if the personal progress continues, it's going to snowball and create a better community.
I think that's well said, well put. You said it better than I did. And I think that is a piece. This is very personal. This is a user-driven process. So the person who wrote that, very profound, well said. And I think for some people that works. They're gonna chart their progress, let's say, on their ability to, their interpersonal relationship or their relationship with their kid, and they're gonna journal it out and chart their progress, and they'll see the progress they make. And certainly the comment that you made there at the end is absolutely perfect, that your personal improvement and growth, and then it cascades out. Whoever's calling, somebody's on my headphones. Yeah, tell them to stop calling us. Bonnieville, stop calling us. We'll call you. Okay, so, but also, I got my train of thought lost there. So the comment that you made is perfect and profound and is applicable to some. But others of you, you have a definite thing you want to get done in the community. I know that there's somebody out there that wants to do a splash pad. You've talked to me, you've emailed, you've posted it, wants to do a splash pad and wants to rally the community to do a splash pad. I know there's somebody else that wants to rally the community to get a pool or a better pool. Or somebody wants to rally the community to do a playground. Fact is, we got contacted for our Let Them Be Kids Foundation from one of you communities that wants to do a playground. That's more tangible, right, Gina? That's more tangible, and they're going to be rallying for a playground. So whether it's the journaling for your own personal growth to check your progress, and that's a way you can assess it, which is perfect, or whether we set a tangible outcome of we're doing a playground or the murals or a skate park or whatever, all good. Or within your small business, Sean at Remax, within your small business, you're gonna improve a couple of the systems. Whatever it is, just make a commitment. All right. Is that good? Did I answer that one?
We're good.
Okay, now let's us call Bonnieville. We're calling Bonnieville. Dialing into Bonnieville. And I got my handy dandy earphones. I don't have to put it on. No. I can hear Bonnieville. Hi, Bonnieville. So you got to turn down your volume, Bonnieville, and turn on your camera. Because Bonnieville is about a 1.5 minute delay, because I can hear what I just said a 1.5 minutes ago. Okay. We're waiting for Bonnieville. There we go. Hi, Bonnieville.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You guys sound nervous. They're like, we're kind of freaking out here. Where are you?
We're good.
Hey,
Good.
do me a favor, turn down the broadcast volume if you can, because there's a little bit of a delay, right?
Yeah.
So what office are you in, you little group there in Bonnyville?
We're in the Community Futures office.
Community Futures office. I think that's the voice of Phyllis, the Executive Director of Community Futures Lakeland. How are you?
Great.
Good. And Phyllis, tell us who's around the table there. We can see some of them. So who's at the table?
Well, let's just do a round circle. Stacy.
Stacy, Chrissy, Lorna, Megan, Tanya,
And Carrie Ann.
Awesome. And we've got the Executive Director of the Chamber, Tanya, and we've got Phyllis, and we got Carrie Ann, who does a lot of work in the social service arena. And just so everybody knows, Carrie Ann's a superstar. Look at her, she's like, you can send me the $5 later, Carrie Ann. But who else? Who else are you with? The others that are there.
us two are from Asheville Electric in Bonnyville here.
Awesome.
And I'm one of the town councilors.
Awesome. And how about the one guy in the room?
Our token male.
Yeah. I'm with Open Stewart Weir here in Bonnyville.
Awesome.
Consulting company.
And we appreciate ADCO as one of the, I believe, one of the sponsors there in Bonnyville. Certainly has been a sponsor in other parts of the province. So thank you all for letting us dial in your group there. I think, Phyllis, you're going to be asked, well, first of all, Phyllis, tell us a little bit about, tell the rest of the province a little bit about what's going on in Bonnyville. Lean in.
We're lean in. We're trying to get more and more people still involved. Are you gonna? How come you're moving? You're not even moving now.
No, this is
Ignore it. Okay. We're still trying to get more people involved. One of the issues that we did have was that we brought Cold Lake in a little bit late, so we're still trying to get some of them involved as well. But there's some other things cropping up in town now that are really going to tie in really well with this, and that's actually going to lead into my question in a few minutes.
Okay, well, why don't you ask your question then?
Okay, so last week there was another group in town that had decided that they organized a meeting and they wanted to start talking about what kinds of projects could be done. Our question now is we don't want to lose that momentum and we don't want to lose them being part of this group. So we want to work with them through the community builders and get them involved. And we want to organize a meeting with all of us and them. But we're unclear about how to move ahead, whether we should do a small meeting ahead of time and pick, say, 3 or 4 projects and then start putting some priority around them. Or should we use a shotgun approach and just let everybody bring everything to the table and then decide? Or is that going to be too convoluted and we won't get any real dedication to any particular project?
Okay, and you know what? An excellent question. And bring Phyllis back up because I got to ask her a little bit of a clarifier. Phyllis, let me just say that that's an excellent question. And I bet you there's a lot of people that have that same challenge. There's another group in town trying to do something. And how do we try to find alignment, because that's the key word, between what you're already doing and what these enthusiastic people want to do. You don't want to rain on their parade, but you also don't want it to turn into a big convoluted mess, as you said, right? How well do all of you know the leaders or the initiators of that group?
Fairly well. There's some good ties there.
Okay, good. All right, so come to me and I'll answer your question and then we'll come back to you. So for all of you that are watching, we all have this oftentimes. A project grows up, a group of people come together. Even in a smaller community, you have one group of people trying to do something, another group of people trying to do something. And that's why those arrows that I've shown you many times are so critical. How do we find, gain, and maximize alignment? How do we find, gain, and then maximize the impact of the alignment? That's the question that she's really asking. The first, and you've heard me say it, and you might say it's a broken record, the first thing I would do is have some cups of coffee with them. I wouldn't have a big meeting. I wouldn't even go there yet because, as Phyllis points out, that thing can spin out of control really, really fast. So the first thing I would do, either in groups of 2 and 3 or one-on-ones, I would have some coffees and just listen. Why did your group come together? What does your group hope to accomplish? What is it you're looking to tackle? Where are you, where's your vision going? And just those clarifying chat, remember 80% listening, 20% talking, chat questions so that you can establish some commonality of effort. Then once I've done that, that's the find alignment. Then next, gain the alignment. Okay, let's work on that thing together. We have a common interest in that one or two things. We have a common desire to get that done. Let's bring our groups together to work on that thing. Now, obviously, we're going to have synergistic opportunity. We both want to get it accomplished. It's obviously going to be collaborative opportunity. We both bring different skills, but we want the same outcome. But here's it even deeper. Through that experience of working on those one or two things that we find in common, we gain trust. Then and only then would I have that broader discussion of, okay, let's do, as you said, the shotgun, let's put the 20 things on the wall. So first, and that's when we maximize the alignment. First, find alignment. 100 cups of coffee or just a few cups of coffee. Where are you at? Where are you going? Second, gain alignment. Let's work on these two things or three things that we mutually agree need to be handled. This other stuff we'll all go do on our own. But these couple things, we as two separate groups are now going to come together to work on these things. We're going to get something done. We're going to have a victory. Shared vision, shared experience, shared victory builds a sense of trust and community. Now let's have a shotgun discussion, priority discussion, so on and so forth. Come back to Phyllis for me. Phyllis, did that answer your question? Phyllis, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I think, I mean, we were planning on doing sort of a gathering with them. So I'm thinking that, Tanya, we may want to rethink that a little bit now with your answer. Or maybe do it instead of like the one-on-one cup of coffee. Would it still work if we did it in a small group setting?
The only thing you want to avoid, when you get more than 2 to 2, even when you get to 3 to 3 and 4 to 4, someone's going to dominate that conversation. And I'll use this term because some rural Albertans will know this term. Someone's going to want to be the bull in the woods, right? The bull in the woods. The guy or gal that's going to show their dominance. But when you're one-on-one or two-on-two, there's none of that. There's just nice conversation because those initial chats are really some fact-finding and some better understanding of their desires and hopes and wants, and trying to find that one or two things you could work on together to create that deeper, more profound, long-term opportunity. So I don't know, I know it's expedient to get 10 people from them and 10 people from you, but that easily and quickly spins out of control because then someone's trying to speak for everybody else and not everybody gets heard and so on and so forth. I would keep it intimate, conversation, figuratively or literally cups of coffee, bring those findings back to the group, identify where there's a singularity of purpose on one or two topics, go back to them and say, we love to help you work on blank. It means something to you, it means something to us. Through that experience, trust will be built, and then you'll have an opportunity to have more of that. Okay, now that we've finished that, let's talk about more things we want to do together. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Is there potential that we could lose maybe the momentum that they think they have at this point in time? Because, I mean, they're all excited about trying to generate some project ideas. So in this process, we don't want to lose that enthusiasm either.
And I agree with that. And that's one of the reasons I would encourage you to do what you're saying. Go find out what some of those projects are and pick one that you guys agree with and find alignment on, and then help them go do that. Don't slow down their momentum. Just find out where they're coming from, find out what they're excited about, find out what they'd like to accomplish. Pick one that you think is a priority, important to you, touches your heart, whatever, and then go make that happen. And that actually maximizes the momentum, if that makes sense, while mitigating the risk of the thing spinning out of control or people being offended or all of those things that happen when a group organically rises up and wants to do something, right? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
All right, any other questions that we have from Bonneville as we move on with the show? Any other questions from Bonneville? Systems?
Stacy, you were.
That wasn't me.
Oh, Lorna, sorry.
Just a question we just kind of had around the table is, as far as getting your certificate, what qualifies you to get your certificate? We're assuming it's sending in your commitment. Just want confirmation on that.
Excellent question. How do I get my certificate? So there's two kinds of certificates. Come to me full screen. So there's two kinds of certificates. Certificate of completion, certificate of participation. You are absolutely right. The number one overriding factor to get a certificate of completion is make a commitment. You could open every video, and we do track that. You could turn in every assignment, although there are only a few that you're actually supposed to send to me, and we do track that. You could open every email, click on every link, which we track all of that, and not make a commitment, and I'm giving you a certificate of participation, period. So what we look at is, did they make a commitment? Did they open the emails 70% of the time? Did they turn in the assignments 70% of the time, 70, 75%? But a person could open 40% of the emails, turn in one of the assignments, but make a commitment and have that dialogue with me about their commitment, because some of you that have made your commitment, you know I respond to you and we talk about it. If they only do it 40% of the time but make their commitment and do their commitment, they get a certificate of completion, because that's what this thing's really all about. Go be a community builder. John Hancock, the guy that we talk about sometimes, you saw him in the video today, he never opened the emails because he just wasn't that tech savvy. He watched them and he did them and he went and stuff and he eventually got to them all. But let me tell you something, he made a commitment, fulfilled his commitment, the murals are getting handled, he got a certificate of completion. He's a community builder, he's out doing it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
All right, well, we're gonna depart from Bonneville, give them a big shout out, wave everybody. Thank you, Bonneville. And thank you for all of your commitment, all the committee members, and certainly to all of the sponsors there in Bonneville. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so there's Bonneville, and I've had the opportunity to be there on a couple of occasions now, and they are doing some exciting things there in Bonneville. And they're having some great conversations in Bonneville. And not just Bonneville, but also the MD and Cold Lake. And I'm proud. To all of you in Cold Lake, I'm proud of our relationship with Cold Lake. And Gina, you know, in my office, you know, in our office, we have the key to the city. Mm-hmm. Bring Gina up. Mm-hmm. You know, we have the key to the city of Cold Lake in our office because of the work that we did with Let Them Be Kids and
they had a great playground built.
They had an amazing playground.
It was
man.
really
Remember that
cool.
video and the kids singing
Yep.
at the beginning?
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. And so if you are out there in Cold Lake, as she said, you know, Cold Lake got on board a little later. And that was because of me, Cold Lake. It wasn't because of the Bonneville Committee. It was because of me and my rock-headedness. I love you, but I was rock-headed. And now you're in. So get all your Cold Lake friends and family involved and get them on board. And you're a little behind, but you'll catch up because you can do this at your own pace. All right, next question.
Next question. Okay, we had a question.
Hold on for a second. Don't forget, and Jeff put that stuff up there. Let's get our questions coming in. Facebook, Skype, not Skype, Facebook, whatever. Just keep rotating that, okay? Go, Gina.
We had a question. Somebody asked, you said you were going to put up a video about recruiting and retaining volunteers, and they can't find it.
Okay, recruiting and retaining volunteers. Recruiting and retaining volunteers. Well, if you've noticed, when the first Monday morning email around systems, we told you this was going to be like a buffet. And we were going to let you pick the systems that were most relevant to you, personal, organizational, or community. So we've posted some systems. There's systems on there about delegation. There's systems on there, motivation. Certainly we're talking about time right now, and you're going to get an email on Monday morning of an exercise that you can do next week that talks of tracking your time, for those of you that are interested in that. There's a system on performance that I mentioned earlier, a performance management system. The system for recruiting and retaining volunteers, system for community engagement, and the system for fund development will all be posted next week. So that's why you can't find it. Thank you for looking. You can't find it because we're not posting it till next week. So personal systems, organizational systems, community systems, and then you pick the ones that are most relevant to you or would have the greatest impact for you. Okay, go Gina, next question.
Next question is, how do you implement the delegation matrix?
How do you implement the delegation matrix?
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Whether you are supervising people in a governmental entity, whether you're supervising people in a business, or whether you're supervising people in a volunteer. You're a volunteer supervising volunteers. Delegation matrix. Remember that I made the point. I tried to make the point. If you haven't watched that delegation video, I encourage you to do so. I tried to make the point that delegation today was critical because it is a system that unleashes human capital. If I'm not a good delegator, if I'm ineffective in delegation, I will not unleash human capital. I will actually restrict human capital. If you're one of those control freaks, then you're restricting human capital. Yeah, but they'll screw it up, Ian. Don't you know? They'll screw it up. I get that. And that's why we're afraid to delegate. I get that. I totally get it. But the fact of the matter is, there's not enough time, energy, and effort to get done everything I need to get done. So we better have a system that mitigates the risk of that person making mistakes or screwing it up, but at the same time, utilizing whatever capacity they have to help get things done. Only two ways to get things done. You're going to do it or I'm going to do it. So how would I implement the delegation matrix? I would sit down with them, whoever my direct reports are, paid staff, volunteers, seasonal staff, whatever. And I would make a list. Or I'm sorry, I would start by saying, I've done a poor job of leading you. Why would I start with that? Because you have. If you don't have a delegation process in place, a system for delegation, then you have done a poor job of leading them because you're not maximizing their potential or yours. That's kind of mean, Ian. That's very judgmental. Yeah, okay, sorry. The chubby brown guy's judgmental sometimes. But I'd start with that. It's also a nice way to come in humble and low, right? And say, and contrite. I'm sorry. I've been there when you didn't need me, and I haven't been there when you did. That's going to change today. That's how I would start. And then I would make a list of everything that they do. Everything that they do. And then we're going to delineate their level of authority, or what they can do without me, what they need with me, and what's in between, based on their proficiency. Now, I'm not going to go into the 15-minute teaching video that's on the website, because you can just click that when we're done and watch it. But I am going to say this. Once you've delineated those levels of authority, ask and recommend, act and report immediately, act and report periodically, act on own. Once you've done that, it's going to free up your time to go do what you need to do, but be there when they need you. The keys the keys to it working. One, it's got to be a covenant, an agreement, a deep agreement between you and them. Don't violate it. If you say they can act on own because they've mastered that task, let them act on own unless they give you reason otherwise. Secondly, it's a living, breathing tool. It must be reviewed regularly. As they progress and improve in a certain area where they're asking and recommending, then move it to act and report immediately, or act and report periodically, and eventually act on own. It changes the whole mindset of the relationship between the leader and their direct report. And whether that's in government, business, social profit, or in a volunteer environment. I'm here to help you grow and be as independent as you are capable of being. Now, what's interesting is when you connect that to the overall performance management system that we've put on the website, we now have a comprehensive continuum to ensure excellent performance while at the same time gaining greater control. What? I'm in command of the situation. I'm in command by having a system that produces great performance and coaches when not. So the delegation matrix, or the delegation tool, when used in conjunction with the overarching continuum of performance, you will have exceptional performers. Or when they are not performing exceptionally, you'll have a system for correcting it. I encourage you, watch that video. Next question. We got 9 minutes, we've got how long? We've got 13 minutes left. 13 minutes left. Get your questions in the chat box, in the Facebook, on the Twitter, well, not on the Twitter, in the text. Come on, get your questions in so we can get them addressed. And please, please, some of you use the YouTube channel, the Community Voices channel. We want to see you. We're tired of seeing me. We want to hear what you're doing. We want to put it in the pre-roll. We want others to see the exciting things that are going on. And in a very short period of time, we're going to be announcing a way that if you have some cool things, some best practices that you're doing for recruiting volunteers or fundraising or running your company or running your governmental entity, we're going to be asking you to give those to us so that we can share those with all of the other communities. And that is going to be really, really cool. And that is coming very soon, very, very soon. Go, Gina.
I don't have any other questions coming in right now.
I thought we had one more on motivation.
No,
That was it?
that was it.
No, I think there was one more. I think you're mistaken.
Okay.
You know how much it pleases me to be able to say it? Because usually I'm the one that's mistaken. I think your exact words to me yesterday was, I'm always right.
Yeah, I did say that, I
You
think.
did. Oh, no, you were going to, I know what you were going to.
I was going to ask a question.
You have
We
two
don't-
questions,
yeah,
actually.
I do.
So first you need to report on something that you committed to doing.
Right.
You committed to doing the 100 cups of coffee because you are on a new board of directors, an arts board of directors at an arts center, nonprofit arts center, and you committed a couple weeks ago to 100 cups of coffee. So I'm holding you to your commitment. How is the 100 cups of coffee approach working for you?
It's actually the first time I've really done it in this way, really a strategy, 100 cups of coffee. So I've met with 2 of the other board members. It's a relatively new board because it's a long-standing organization with new blood on.
Okay.
And so we're kind of getting together and looking at the projects together and the problems from a different perspective. And it's actually been really great in our enthusiasm in meeting and sharing ideas and building trust, which is what we didn't have before, has become a little contagious on the rest of the board who we haven't even met yet. They're excited.
Wow.
And, you know, it's worked out very well.
Bring us to split screen there, Jeff. So you've had some cups of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You've had those dialogues. And did you see immediate, I mean, it sounds like you saw immediate momentum.
I did. I started with the one that thought I would connect with first.
Oh, that was good. Okay.
So I did. I started with the one who I felt like was like-minded.
Okay, so you
So I
started
went in
with
that direction.
And then the next one?
Next one was I didn't know the guy at all. It was a brand new board member, brand new relationship, and that went well as well. Just, enthusiasm too is contagious. Contagious, and if you share your heart and you're sincere, people are going to jump on board, and that's what I'm seeing.
Because your struggle, just to remind everybody, was you wanted to initiate some change. You were getting some resistance, and so now you've employed the 100 cups of coffee strategy. Side note to everyone that she should have been employing before, but now we know she really doesn't listen to me, but that's good. You're doing progress. You're doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So are you getting less resistance and pushback already?
Yes, I'm getting less resistance already, but I'm also, I feel a little bit more confident going in because I feel like I have the support of others on the board as well, as opposed to the rogue board member that's always coming in with new ideas. But I feel like we can plan and we can really focus on creating a positive change.
That's awesome. And so if you were to, and now be honest, if you were to give the 100 cups of coffee approach a score, 1 to 10, how has it worked so far?
Well, because it's still in the opening stages, I would say a solid 7.5 right now.
Okay.
Because we haven't implemented anything yet, but the lines of communication are open to do so.
So progress has been made?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So come to me really quick, Jeff. I encourage you, and just like the group in Bonneville, it's funny, our first tendency is, let's all get in a room and have a chat. Let's all have a big meeting. And that thing spins out of control like that. Just go and have some individual, as Gina is doing, meeting with, and you only met with 2, and how many people on the board?
There's 7
7, so you've only met with 2.
on the executive board, yeah.
Yeah, so as you cycle through the rest of them, we can anticipate the same success. The same success. So whether it's the group in Bonneville, whether it's Gina, it's all about building trusting relationships, because once I've had that trusting relationship, people open their hearts, or at least are more open to change, or I know who the resistors are and I can come up with a strategy. And frankly, I hadn't told you this, but now you know that's a system.
It is a system.
Right? That's a
Yeah,
system.
it is a system.
And it's manageable and it's doable.
Right.
And it produces results.
It does. It seems, yeah, absolutely. But it does take time.
Yeah, it's not expedient.
No.
And I want to say something about expediency. You know what expediency has gotten us? Expediency got us the atom bomb. How do we kill more people quicker? Expediency has got us living life at 120 characters. Expediency has cut into our relationship building. So I'm all for expediency and efficiencies. I like that, but not at the sacrifice of what's really important and what really gets things done. Somehow they built the pyramids. Somehow they built the pyramids without Facebook and Twitter. Somehow they built it without Vine and Snapchat, without a mass distribution of 50,000 emails. Somehow. So I think we can probably get things done. And frankly, how did Alberta get built? Relationships. And how did your grandparents and my grandparents and your fathers and mothers and my fathers and mothers, how did they get something done in the community? It was all based on relationships. And I don't think anything's changed, and I don't think it's ever going to change. If you want to marshal human capital, then go have a cup of coffee. It's not as expedient. It does take a little bit more time, but there's exponential impact. It's a system that produces exponential impact. All right, you had another question, or did you have one just
Well,
came in?
I had this text come in while we were talking,
Okay,
and
go ahead.
it goes perfectly with what you just said.
All right.
In the discussion with Bonneville, many people feel there is a sense of urgency in moving quickly on getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
How can we recognize the value of slowing the process down? I think
Okay,
you
two
kind of
things.
answered that.
Two things, though. Two things about that, because I've built, I'm going to say this. You can come split screen, because Gina can weigh in on this. I've built a reputation on doing things fast, right, Gina?
Yeah,
I mean, we do things fast.
we do.
We open schools in months when it takes decades for others.
Right.
We do playground projects in weeks when it takes years, right?
Right.
This program, literally this program, and Yvonne out there, she'll tell you, this program came together in weeks. Literally weeks. So I'm all about fast, if the conditions are in place for fast. Now it's funny, Jeff's last name is Fast, but a good, he's got roots in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan Mennonite farmer, that's what Jeff Fast's background is. And Jeff will tell you, he's heard me say this when we do the playgrounds, not one day longer than it needs to be. How long should this go? Not one day longer than it needs to be. So if you can get that playground built in 90 days, get it built in 90 days, not one day longer than it needs to be. But we've been doing a project in Ghana that's coming up on a year now. We thought it was going to get done in a few months. Not one day longer than it needs to be. So I agree with that text. Yes, we want to take our time, but not one day longer than it needs to be. Especially when we're talking about people. Especially when we're talking about people. People who are in need. People who are hurting. People who are downtrodden. People who are hopeless. Not one day longer than it needs to be. If there's kids that don't have appropriate places to play, get it fixed. And get it fixed now. Just like I said to the mayor of Ottawa a couple years ago, when I went through the family shelters. Remember this, Gina? I went through the family shelters. And there was no place for a kid who was homeless to play in the family shelters in Ottawa, the nation's capital, that should be the shining example to the rest. And I looked at the mayor and I looked at the general manager of community and social services and I said, unacceptable. And we said, we'll support you with the playground right here. We're going to build it right back here on this asphalt and we're going to get it built. Remember that? We're going to get it built on this asphalt and you're going to do it in 60 days. He said it can't be done. I said, why not? Why can't it be done? and it was done in 45. And that is no longer mayor, said to me, never been done. Not one day longer than it needs to be. So I believe in urgency, but I also love the caution of the person who texts that in. Don't be urgent just to be urgent. Don't just be fast. No offense, Jeff. Don't just be fast to be fast. If it takes time to build a good plan, to build the trusting relationships, it's funny, man. You get those trusting relationships together, great things happen real quick. Real quick. Brant, Alberta, outside of High River, they raised like 90 grand, I think it was, in like 60 days. But they took the time to build the relationships. Nanton, Pincher Creek, Cold Lake, couple $100,000 after they built the relationships. So once the relationships are built, great things happen. It's a system. I love the caution on the part of the person who texts. I think there is a happy medium. Not one day longer than it needs to be. Go.
Okay, we had a question. Oh, my phone just went. I apologize. How do you, about time? Going back to the time.
Yeah, time matrix.
Time matrix.
Or maximizing utilization of your time. Sorry.
That's right. How do you adapt time blocks when your job is literally a series of interruptions?
Excellent point. So follow me here. You're going to get an exercise. Excellent point. How do you control the intangible? How do you quantify the intangible, right? I'm going to tell you how. On Monday morning, all of us are going to get an exercise, and those of you that are really keen on maximizing utilization of your time, I'm going to have you track your time for a week. And then on Friday, I'll tell you what it means. But track your time for a week. Because what you're going to find is trends. And if you're in one of those jobs where you're fire-oriented, figuratively speaking, you're just handling fires, I bet you'll see when you track your time for a week or two that there's a trend. That maybe 20 hours of your week goes to putting out fires. I'll give you a very, very specific example autobiographically that speaks to what you're talking about. I used to always try to have meetings on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. when I ran this big, or helped run this big, large hotel casino. And they always were a disaster. I was getting called, and somebody in the meeting was getting called. It was a disaster. Now, I did it because I thought that would set up the week. And it wasn't until I pulled back up and looked at where my time was going. I tracked my time for a couple weeks, and I found that Monday between 7 a.m. and 11 was just crisis mode because all kinds of things happened over the weekend in a casino. So somebody fell down, somebody threw up, somebody did this, somebody did that, somebody won a lot of money, somebody lost a lot of money. It was crisis mode. From about 7 a.m. to about noon, 11 or lunchtime, crisis mode. Do not try to have a meeting during that time. So you know what I did? I would block out that time. What? Yeah, I would block it out for crisis. And then when there weren't enough crises to occupy my time from 7 to 12, what did I get? What did I get, Gina? I got time back. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So by trending my job, I looked and saw how my workflow was, and then I just blocked out that time, 7 to noon. Gonna be crises, just gonna be, because it's coming back from the weekend. No meetings, just available, sitting in my office, waiting for my pager. That's how long ago it was, my pager. My pager to go off, my this, whatever, handle it. And then when there wasn't any, I could work on other things. So that's what I would suggest. On Monday, to the person that asked that question, start tracking. Maybe do it for 2 weeks. I bet you there is some flow or some trend to the pockets of crisis. Block those out, schedule around them, and actually block time. Now you say, Ian, that's crazy. Okay, could you at least mitigate it some? Could you make it seemingly uncontrollable a little bit more controllable? Because if you can do that, then you begin to maximize the utilization of your time. Remember, the system is proactive, holistic, big picture. Those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, watch that video and Monday morning's email. Do the exercise that I'm going to give you this Monday, and then on Friday we're going to send you an explanation to that exercise. I think it's one of the top 4 tools you must have in your toolkit. how to maximize the use of the 100 to 110 usable hours in your week. And it's not a day timer exclusively. And it's not a to-do list. No, it's a mindset. It's a mind frame. How do I take an hour, invest it, and get 10 hours? And part of that is evaluating my workflow. Go, Gina.
I wanted to add, I have one more question.
Oh, and just
that
on a
came
side
in.
note, the schedule says we're supposed to go to 110, but we're probably not. We'll go 2 or 3 more minutes. Go.
Okay, I have one more question, but I wanted to chime in on that last comment that you made. You also point out in your videos not to be urgency addicted.
Right.
So if you're constantly being interrupted, maybe you couple those all together and use your time block and then address those all at
excellent.
once.
And you know what's funny? We talk about that. Here's a little one. Blocking email out. Time for email. You don't need to answer every email right now. If you have a chime on your phone or on your laptop or on your desktop, every time an email comes in, bing, bing, turn it off.
Yeah.
Because every time it pops up, what do? You're like, oh, well. And you know what? Even me, I don't answer every call that comes in. Yeah, but don't you, responsiveness. I block out time in my day for emails and for phone calls. Because that seems urgent. I'm urgency addicted, but is it important? No. High leverage activity. So Gina's point, take those things that you know you got to do, block some time for them, email, phone calls, whatever, and you start to control your day as opposed to your day controlling you. You got anything else?
Yes. It
Go.
says, Ian, you spoke about there
Can I
always...
ask you a question? Why do we always get these like with 3 minutes to go?
I know.
Go.
They get excited.
Yeah.
We all get excited.
Right.
Ian, you spoke about there always being a bull in the woods when there is a group. Wouldn't that person have generally speaking, more influence upon the group? So my question is, would it be more strategic to spend more time meeting with that one person instead of a couple of the others?
I don't disagree. You're absolutely right. And I have never used that bull in the woods reference before, but that bull in the woods can be that person of influence, right? That's why you are absolutely perfect. That's a great comment. That's why we identify the person of influence. Excuse me. That's why we identify the person of influence. So that we can have that discussion, come to some process or come to some place of alignment so they don't need to be the bull in the woods because we're aligned. I would say though, in the specific instance of Bonnieville, because there's 7 or 8 people in the Bonnieville Becoming a Community Builder group or more, excuse me, on the committee, and there might be the same, we could all pick someone and go have a cup of coffee and come back and have a chat with our group. So you're absolutely right. You could use the term bull in the woods. You could use the term influencer. You could use the term person of influence. You could use the term loudest mouth in the group, whatever you want to call it. Just go have a cup of coffee with them, right?
Right.
All right, we good?
We're good.
Do you want to do your thing? You had the question on change, or should we wrap up?
I think we should wrap up.
Okay. All right, everybody. Hey, I can't overemphasize the importance at this point of 2 things. One, as you're becoming a community builder committee, local committee, sends out information about a meet and greet, go. Go. I'll give 2 examples. We did a meet and greet, and I happened to be at it. Most of them I'm not at, but I happened to be at this one in Grand Prairie. It was an amazing time. It was amazing. People who had been in the community for all their life, people who had been in the community for literally weeks connected. Cards were handed out, energy, excitement. I mean, literally, I left. I went up to my hotel room. I'm like, I'm going to bed. You guys can keep talking all you want. I'm leaving. And I left. And there was still a few people standing chatting. So, and then the example of Stony Plain. So when we were in Stony Plain, there was 40 people there, and the buzz was awesome. So I encourage you, go to the meet and greet breakfast, go to the meet and greet lunch, go to the meet and greet coffee, go see like-minded people who are like you that want to build a better community. Second, make your commitment. There's a 4-year-old little boy counting on you to make your commitment. There's a senior on a fixed income counting on you to make your commitment. There's a young family who's just moved to your community that's counting on you to make your commitment. And not to be melodramatic, there's somebody in your own house perhaps that's counting on you to make your commitment. A number of weeks ago, I asked you to write down the 3 names of people whose lives would be better if you committed to improving one thing. I'm not asking you to do a million things. I'm just asking 1,171 people to make one commitment of what they will do better than they were doing before. And would you agree with me that if 1,171 people make a commitment, not only will they be better, the people around them will be better, but I tell you, we'll have a better Alberta. And by having a better Alberta, we'll have a better Canada. And then Canada and Alberta and you will help be the beacon of hope that the world needs today. I thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your questions. I'll be in the chat box for a few minutes. Take care, everybody.
There comes a moment when my heart must stand alone on this lonely path I've chosen, like a house that's not a home.